conditions.
Most of our livestock was kept in better conditions than the children.
The kids forced to live in a 12 by 12 room in rural Ohio, starved.
Most of our livestock was kept in better conditions than the children. That's not a quote from an activist. That's the elected sheriff of Vinton County, Ohio, Ryan Cain, describing what his deputies found inside a rural home on June 30th, 2026.
This is Appalachia. That doesn't excuse anything. It's just explanatory. Families with that many children in Appalachia is already pretty unusual.
They were never enrolled in school. The oldest, an 18-year-old believed to be developmentally disabled, could not even spell her name.
You don't see families with 7, 8, 9, 10 or more children typically in Appalachia. And then if you do, you certainly wouldn't see them confined in such a small room or such a small house. This is one of the smallest counties in Ohio, Vinton County, one of the poorest counties in Ohio.
For the past 4 years, Vinton County, Ohio has been home to the Siders family. 73-year-old Gary Siders Sr., his wife, 67-year-old Christina Siders, who goes by the name Lynn, their son, 36-year-old Gary Siders Jr., and his wife, 33-year-old.
They were never enrolled in school. The oldest, an 18-year-old believed to be developmentally disabled, could not even spell her name.
To prosecuting these types of cases. And I can tell you this is pure evil. What we saw down here today is pure evil. And I have to commend the deputies from the Vinton County Sheriff's Office and our agents from Ohio BCI and I who went into really kind of one of the worst environments that I've seen in my career, and were there for those children in their time of need.
Inside the home, first responders found a 12 by 12 room.
Gary Siders Jr., 36, and his wife Elizabeth Siders, 33, along with his parents, Gary Siders Sr., 73, and Christina Siders, 67. All four have been charged with 16 counts of second-degree felony child endangerment and have pleaded not guilty with bonds set at $300,000 each. He was wanted on 4 counts of public indecency for incidents that occurred just weeks before the rescue. While authorities served a search warrant for that case, they stumbled upon something they never expected. This was not something they expected to find, officials noted. The search warrant was for something else, and they were surprised when they found these children. The adults were pretty good at hiding these kids, Attorney General Wilson said, adding that neighbors in the small village of Hamden had no idea the children existed. They lived in a house described by a local food truck owner as smelling of cat urine, with the parents visiting for pizza but never appearing to have children in tow. As the case moves forward, the defense has begun to mount a strategy that points to poverty and misunderstanding rather than malice. Dorian Ball, attorney for Gary Siders Sr., has accused officials of trying to criminalize poverty.
From 1.5 to 18.5.
We will tell you that several of the children are in serious condition. 2 of the children had to be care flighted to level 1 trauma centers because of the nature of the injuries, and it's very, very serious, obviously.
The AG actually refused to discuss the kids' emotional state and would only comment on their medical condition.
I will tell you this, their medical condition was so severe that the number one concern of the folks who are law enforcement officials who were there at the scene was getting them medical treatment, getting them to safety, to the point where literally their lives were in danger at the time.
When first responders got a look at the conditions and the sheer number of children, they knew they had to call for backup. Multiple agencies were deployed in this case, including the Hamden Fire Department, Benton County EMS, Jackson County EMS, Jackson County Sheriff's Office, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and of course, the Ohio...
Gary Siders Jr., 36, and his wife Elizabeth Siders, 33, along with his parents, Gary Siders Sr., 73, and Christina Siders, 67. All 4 have been charged with 16 counts of second-degree felony child endangerment and have pleaded not guilty, with bonds set at $300,000 each. He was wanted on 4 counts of public indecency for incidents that occurred just weeks before the rescue. While authorities served a search warrant for that case, they stumbled upon something they never expected. This was not something they expected to find. Officials noted. The search warrant was for something else, and they were surprised when they found these children. The adults were pretty good at hiding these kids. Attorney General Wilson said, adding that neighbors in the small village of Hamden had no idea the children existed. They lived in a house described by a local food truck owner as smelling of cat urine, with the parents visiting for pizza but never appearing to have children in tow. As the case moves forward, the defense has begun to mount a strategy that points to poverty and misunderstanding rather than malice. Dorian Ball, attorney for Gary Siders' Sear, has accused officials of trying to criminalize poverty.
Elizabeth Siders. On June 30th, a search warrant was executed on their home in Vinton County. And there's been some confusion here. Some reports initially said the warrant was related to Gary Jr.'s public indecency charge. And Gary does face that allegation for 4 reported incidents between May 23rd and May 31st.
And has noted that at least some of the older children had social media accounts, suggesting they were not completely isolated. However, these claims run counter to the physical evidence and the testimony of the officers who were at the scene. You cannot be charged for ignorance. One family member posted on social media, "The horror stories is not true. Nothing is true, but the prosecutor's office is not backing down," describing the allegations of feral children as a literal truth, not an exaggeration.
But that's not what the search warrant was related to. Here's Gary Sr.'s attorney, Dorian Ball.
It would seem pretty odd for a couple of misdemeanor counts of indecent exposure to generate the type of response that happened at this house. I would also be very interested to see what this search warrant said, what the basis for the search warrant was, how they were able to obtain such a search warrant, because I have a hard time believing, first of all, if all it was...
But as the investigation unfolds, a picture emerges that is less about a single moment of depravity and more about a decades-long pattern of calculated isolation. This family appears to have been hiding for years. Investigators revealed that the Siders family had moved around southern Ohio since at least 2008, seemingly avoiding the creation of any government paper trail. No medical records, no birth certificates, no school enrollment records. But the case presents a chilling irony. The law finally arrived at their door not because of the children, but because of a separate, unrelated investigation into Gary Siders Jr.
The young person's mental capacity, she is, we believe, developmentally disabled. Couldn't even spell her name at 18, and so she is developmentally still a minor.
And that leads to the condition of all 16 kids.
Some of these children couldn't even speak. Yeah, so, I mean, we're talking.
Video N times Olander Zender 2021. If convicted on all charges, each defendant could face up to 192 years in prison. The family's future now lies with the Ohio legal system, where a grand jury has been impaneled to hear the evidence. The children are now in the temporary custody of the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services, receiving the medical care and safety that was denied to them for so long.
Story. The parents here are Gary Jr. and Elizabeth, only 36 and 33 respectively, and that means Elizabeth was only 15 years old when she had her first baby. This came just months after she married Gary Jr. And you heard that right, by the way. Married. This was back in 2008. Elizabeth was 15 years old and Gary Jr. was 18. Now, it wasn't legal to get married in Ohio for someone only 15, but just across the border in West Virginia, Elizabeth was legally.
The adults charged in this case are not strangers. They are the children's immediate family.
Frankly, I've seen what you've seen, which is I saw it appears that he has limited mobility. My understanding is that he had difficulty hearing. It also seemed that he had difficulty understanding the judge. So I have some of the same concerns that anyone else might have looking at a person whose competence might be in question. As anyone who knows anything about the law knows, the very first step is to ensure that your client is competent. You can't move forward otherwise. So one of the basic tenets of my criminal defense of Mr. Siders is going to make sure that he's competent to even stand trial, let alone any of the other defenses we might raise. So I guess the short answer is no, I haven't been able to talk to him yet. I don't know anything other than what everyone else has seen, which is what happened at the arraignment, what took place there, et cetera, et cetera.
So the defense has been hard at work getting Gary Sr. out on bond and working to determine his competency as Elizabeth's team put in a request for a bond modification. On top of all of this, all the defense attorneys involved in this case are combing through the evidence they have, which, according to Dorian Baum, is very little discovery so far.
We have gotten so little from the state at this point. As has been reported, we've already filed for discovery. We're asking for the state to provide it to us. I've had some minimal communications with the state, but from what I've seen, to be perfectly blunt, when I see a press conference where the state AG is making these hyperbolic,
Most of our livestock was kept in better conditions than the children. That's not a quote from an activist. That's the elected sheriff of Vinton County, Ohio, Ryan Cain, describing what his deputies found inside a rural home on June 30th, 2026.
These complaints are identical. They each contain 16 counts of endangering children, which is a violation of Revised Code 2919-22B1 and 2919-22E2D. All of those counts are felonies of the second degree. All of those accounts allege that you did in Hamden on or about June 30th, 2026, unlawfully abuse a child under the age of 18, and that violation resulted in serious physical harm to that child, okay?
If the defendants are convicted, here's what they could face.
Each of those felonies of the second degree is punishable by 2 to 8 years as a minimum sentence and a maximum sentence of 12 years in prison, a maximum fine of $15,000, and 18 months to 3 years of post-release control.
All 4 adults appeared in court for the first time on July 2nd. The first 2 in court were Gary Sr. and Gary Jr. side by side.
How do you plead?
For the accused, the potential consequences are staggering. Each of the 16 counts is a second-degree felony, carrying a maximum sentence of 12 years per count.
For care, and later placed in temporary custody of the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. But finding a safe place for them could be kind of tough.
Because as you can imagine, placing 16 kids in a county of this size taxes the resources. I have assurances from the governor and from the Department of Children and Youth, the governor's staff, that they will provide whatever we need, whatever resources we need to support these kids and help protect these kids.
And that's not the only medical expense the county could face.
His medical care could potentially bankrupt Vinton County.
This was a new update just this week when Gary Sr. was given bond and taken to the hospital.
Gary Siders Sr., the older Gary Siders, was provided with a bond today, an OR bond. Let me